Hello, this is Deanna, and thanks so much for being here. So today's video is a book review, and the book I am reviewing is The Arrangement by Robyn Harding. In this book, we find main character Natalie, and it's very much following Natalie and her life. So Natalie is struggling. She is living in New York City, attempting to finish art school and pay her bills. Even with a decent job, that proves tough, and when Natalie loses her job, it's downright impossible. Forced to potentially leave school and New York and move back home, admitting defeat of the big city, Natalie is intrigued by a schoolmate who seems to live a lavish lifestyle. When she finds out how, Natalie is fascinated. Go on a few dates with some men and have all of her money problems disappear? It sounds too good to be true. And of course, nothing is as it seems, and before Natalie knows it, she's pulled into a world of lies, deceit, sex, and money. But Natalie feels lucky because unlike her schoolmate, she's found love, real love, with Gabe, a much older man. He's not a real sugar daddy. He loves her, and they're gonna build a life together. Until her sugar daddy kicks her to the curb. Now Natalie may be out for revenge, and when a dead body is found not far from Gabe's apartment, is this proof that Natalie took things too far? What kind of world did she get herself into, and was it worth it? So I read this one about a year ago in like March of 2021. It was one of my book club books for that month. And I had read the other book for the month, so I thought I'd give this one a read too. It looked kind of light and easy, kind of fun, so I gave it a read. I found this one really easy to get into, but I also found myself like extremely frustrated with all of the characters. Some people might say that's a good thing too, because at least it invoked some kind of reaction in me, albeit a negative one, but at least I was invested and I wanted to find out what was going on, and I was yelling at the characters. So the writing itself was good enough to evoke that kind of reaction in me. It just wasn't really a book for me. I found when I was reading it, sometimes it was like really fast paced. Like sometimes I found in that regard, it wasn't even really the writing, it was more like the characters' reactions. Like everything was happening so fast. They were just like boom, 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 like making decisions or changing reactions, up, down, like, and sometimes it was just like, bah, reading it, and that's kind of how I felt. Without giving away too many spoilers, I want to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. I just didn't really find the relationship between Gabe and Natalie very believable. I didn't find it believable, like how high it went and how like quickly it just like spiked up, and like everything, especially given Gabe's history and all of that. I just really didn't feel like it was an actual like believable and plausible thing going on in this situation. It seemed a little far-fetched to me. And I did honestly, reading this, I felt like it was so much of like a cautionary tale, like, bad, sex work's bad, anything sex related is bad. Like that's kind of how it came off to me almost. And honestly, especially like with the history that we have of sex work and what women have gone through, because primarily it is a lot of women in the field. There are men, of course, but it is heavily focused on women, and I found it kind of upsetting a bit of just the tone it took towards looking at sex work. And I appreciate the author even had like written out, I think in her acknowledgements, about how she had done some interviews with actual like sugar daddy or individuals in sugar daddy arrangements, but it just didn't come across very genuine sometimes, and it kind of sometimes, to my opinion, read as though it was someone looking in. It was someone that was an outsider, didn't really have any kind of first-hand experience, just looking into that world, and that's kind of how it came across on the page to me. And Natalie's roommates, horrible, just absolutely downright horrible people. They annoyed the heck out of me. They were just awful to Natalie, and I just did not like them one bit. There's literally actually, I don't think I liked any of the characters at all. And some people, that will be okay. Not everyone needs to relate to the characters and feel for the characters to enjoy a book. But for me, I do like to have some character connection and be able to at least understand characters and relate sometimes to characters, or even just understand why my characters are doing something when I'm reading a book. And this just, I couldn't. There was nothing with these characters that was redeemable. They all ended up being awful. Natalie started off pretty okay, like I was following her along, and she just became someone that I couldn't stand her either. I did not like any of the men in this book at all. The men were absolutely downright trash in this book. Absolute trash. Every single man that we came across in this book was just horrible, horrible, horrible. So honestly, there was just no one that helped me to like this book and like these characters. So maybe if you don't need, like I said, if you don't really need to connect with characters or like characters, you might enjoy this book. But if you do want to like characters and you want to see, like, go along on a character journey and see their development, I didn't feel like this was the book for that. I will admit that some of the twists that happen in this book, they were interesting, and it did keep me reading this book. It kept me trying to figure out what happened, like how did this even get to where it is, without giving away any spoilers. Like, who was the dead body? How did they get there? Like, what happened? And so that very much did keep me interested and keep me going. So at least the story, like, the writing was fairly good. The writing was good in keeping the suspense and keeping me trying to figure out what was going on. But I didn't like the actual characters. That's where my critique came. That's where my dislike kind of came with the book. I will say, like, for my book club, we kind of do have little, like, comments that we post. We post about, like, what our thoughts were. Clearly, you can tell what my thoughts kind of were and what I posted about. But there were some individuals that actually really loved this book and really enjoyed the story. So I kind of leave this one up to you. I think this one will be very unique to each individual. Some people will really love it, and some people like me might not like it as much. If you want redeeming qualities in your characters and you want to have characters that you like. But again, that's going to be all based on your opinion. So this is just my opinion. I just almost DNF'd it because I was so annoyed, but I did get through it because I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to find out what was going on in this story. So I did finish it, but I rated it a 3 out of 5. So I rated it the 3 out of 5 because it's probably one I won't pick up again. I don't think I will ever read this one again, but I did like the premise. I liked the concept of this book. I liked kind of the idea of exploring a bit of this world and what happens and kind of dealing with some of these situations. Even the kind of murder mystery plot was kind of interesting, or whatever happened in regards to that. Because of all of that, that's why I gave it a bit of a, you know, middle tier of the star rating, because that kept me intrigued. But again, it's just not one I'm going to pick up, and it just wasn't one that ended up being one that I really liked that much. So it's pretty middle of the grade for me in that regard. So take that as you will. If you enjoy, you know, kind of suspenseful things and you're not heavily invested in character development, then you probably will really like this one. But if you want to relate with your characters, or like just even like your characters, I don't know if you'll like this one, or maybe you will just like them better than I did. And if you do, go ahead and let me know. Go ahead and leave a comment. I love to hear it, love to hear from you. I also wrote a blog post about this one that I will go ahead and leave in the link below. So if you are interested, go ahead and check that out. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Take care of yourself. Thank you again for being here, and you will see me next time.